Hello, this is Spike Chartel here, and today I want to talk to you about an argument commonly made by gun control supporters that assumes the idea that an armed populace couldn't win a revolt against a tyrannical government, and why that argument, while it sounds perfectly sane on the surface, is in fact completely idiotic and shows a basic lack of understanding in simple math. The argument goes that any armed revolt by the public would be easily suppressed by the government due to the technologically advanced nature of our military. Now, I'm not advocating that we the people rise up in arms. I personally think things aren't anywhere near the point that we need to do that just yet. The point of this video is to show just how stupid this argument actually is, and show that an armed revolt of the public against a tyrannical government would easily succeed if it ever came to that. So I'm going to start off by telling you a story of a war that happened over 70 years ago in Europe. German, Italian, and Japanese forces had set out on a quest for world domination. They had technological superiority, and weapons so advanced that many of them wouldn't see use in the nations that were fighting them until about a decade after their defeat. Suffice it to say that the Axis powers had vastly technologically advanced weaponry on their side, and yet they still lost. And when you think about it, they lost pretty quickly. I mean, once all the countries of the Allied forces were joined together on December 8th, 1941, the war was over in less than 5 years. So what happened? Well, by the logic of people that make the argument that I'm debunking in this video, the Axis powers should have easily been able to dominate the Allies. In essence, what happened is that the Axis powers had started a war they couldn't possibly win because they were hopelessly outnumbered from the start. During the invasion of Normandy, the German forces were outnumbered by a conservative estimate of 3-1. Of course, this would continue till the end of the war, not just for Germany, but the rest of the Axis powers as well. Simply put, their vast technological advantage was irrelevant in the face of overwhelming numbers. Now, I want you to remember that 3-1 ratio, as we're going to be coming back to those numbers very shortly. So why am I even bringing up World War II in the first place, you ask? It's quite simple, really. It's a prime example of superior numbers playing the larger role in an armed conflict. Now, let's take a look at a hypothetical revolt of the public. As of 2013, there were around 2.3 million people in the military, including active duty and reserve forces. These are the people that would, in theory, be defending a tyrannical government in our scenario. Population estimates for the United States are around 316 million on the conservative side. Now let's be a little conservative here and give our military and government the best chance possible at suppressing an armed revolt of the public. Let's figure that out of the 316 million, we subtract 5 million from military, police, and government personnel that would in theory be defending this hypothetically tyrannical government, and assume that none of these people would break ranks and join the revolt. That leaves us 311 million people. To be fair, not all of these 311 million are going to be adults capable of fighting a war. The latest estimates would say that about 56.7 million of these people are disabled. Now, not all disabilities would keep one from fighting an insurrection, but for the sake of this argument, let's say they do. And just to keep the math simple, we'll round up to 57 million. That leaves us with a force of 254 million. We can't also forget that we aren't the type of society that would push our children into fighting an armed conflict. Around 74 million of that 254 million are children, so subtracting that, we are left with a force of 180 million people. Now let's assume that in this scenario, just to give our government the best chance that we can, that only a quarter of the able-bodied adult population actually rises up to overthrow this tyrannical government. That would leave a rebel force of 45 million people versus a tyrannical government fighting force of 5 million. That means that our tyrannical government in this scenario would be outnumbered 9-1. Now remember that 3-to-1 ratio that I mentioned earlier? The technological advancements of the Axis powers were vastly superior to Allied forces, and they were only outnumbered 3-to-1. Yet once all the members of the Allied nations banded together at the end of 1941, the war was over in less than 5 years. How long do you think a military, outnumbered by 3 times that ratio, is going to last? Even with a vast technological advantage, and assuming that all its members would be willing to fight its own people it was sworn to protect. My guess is not very long. So when you try to say that an armed populace isn't a deterrent to tyrannical government because they have tanks, planes, and drones, you just sound like a fucking retard that can't do basic math. I am Spark Chartel, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the video, please make sure to like and share. And if you like my other videos, please make sure to subscribe. As always, have a nice day, and may the pounce be with you.